What about to kick off the main card? The pay-per-view portion of UFC 266 is a women's flyweight matchup between number one ranked Jessica Andrade, minus 280, versus the plus 225 comeback on number five ranked Cynthia Calvillo. Excuse me, folks. I do know how to talk, I promise. Listen, man, Bate Estaca, man, she's back. But I have to ask you a question, man. She has lost, let me see, she's 2-3 in her last five, and she's still number one in the flyweight division, right? She lost her last fight, which was a title fight against Valentina Shevchenko. We saw how that worked out. But listen, man, it's very hard to beat Valentina Shevchenko, right? Because I think she only has two losses, and they're both to Amanda Nunes. So we'll just leave that where it's at, man. But for Cynthia Calvillo, man, she's been off for a while, coming off of a big loss to Caitlin Chukagian. She got shoulder surgery. She's back in the picture. I want to ask you a question, AJ. Do you remember the time, once upon a time, when Cynthia Calvillo was being hyped up by Dana White, when she was the next big thing? She was supposed to take over the women's flyweight division. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. But it was a good couple years ago, though. That was the thing, man.
Yeah.
She really kind of fell off the map after.
Exactly. So that's the big thing that I have here, man. It's like how so many of these fighters have their peak and their peak, and then they just kind of fall back off. She's still young, relatively young, man. She's 34 years old, right? So she's not like done and out. It's not like her career is over, and she's ranked very firmly at number 5. But she's fighting a young 29-year-old Jessica Andrade, who I think is more motivated more than ever after that loss to Valentina Shevchenko in her new home at women's flyweight, man. So we got the new versus the old, even though really Jessica Andrade, there's nothing new about her. She's been doing this for a long time. Former UFC strawweight champion, got the win over Rose Namajunas. Listen, man, the downfall in Andrade's fight against Valentina Shevchenko was the grappling. Cynthia Calvillo is arguably one of the best grapplers at 125. My question to you on this one, AJ, is do you think Cynthia Calvillo will be able to get this fight to the ground? Because we know she's one of the best to do it. Striking needs a little bit of work, but when she gets you to the ground, similar to Marina Rodriguez when that fight happened, man, she can keep you there nearly the whole round. What do you think?
I think so. I think it's one of Cynthia Calvillo's strongest suits too. Mm-hmm. You know, one of her things is taking it down. My thing though is when you get beat up so bad like Jessica Andrade did on the ground by Valentina Shevchenko, isn't that what you want to work on? You know, because we all know that Andrade has the power. We all know she has that peekaboo style. She's going to come in. She's going to hurt you with her hands. But when you get controlled on the ground like that, isn't that what you go back to the mats and actually work on constantly? Especially, I forget the I might have it now. Whatever camp she's fighting out of, you know that was a main aspect of it. I think it's ATT, but I could be completely wrong with that one.
For Andrade, it's Piranha Valley Tudo.
Okay, yeah, but still, either way, I mean, she's still going to be going back to the coaches and like, yo, I got completely dismantled on the ground. That's what I need to focus on. You know, Andrade has the power to get it done, but do you think that power is going to translate? That's what I want to ask you, Derek. Do you think that power is going to translate to Calvillo? We saw it against Caitlin Chukagian that she was able to hurt you real bad, but Andrade didn't really hurt Valentina Shevchenko that bad in the next fight. Do you think it was a fluke, or do you think that power actually translates and she's going to be able to stop the takedowns of Calvillo? Because I do think Calvillo is going to be working those takedowns a lot.
Well, you know what, man? I do think that the power does translate absolutely for Jessica Andrade. I think the problem was Valentina Shevchenko put Andrade in a position where she couldn't use her power. Like, it was a very smart game plan, right? Clinched her up, took her back, got her on the mat, just kept her there, basically. When you watch the fight, man, and I just watched it back this morning again, that's just what I noticed. I was like, she didn't allow her to get off. She didn't allow Andrade to pressure her, get her back against the cage and do all of that stuff. If anything, Andrade, the one thing she was able to do just for a little bit was able to grab that clinch up on Valentino before ultimately getting taken down. Now, Cynthia Calvillo, her thing is that she, I think, is a little too accepting of getting put on the back foot, you know what I mean? And we know Andrade is going to do that all day long. So I think the power will be able to connect. I think the power will be able to resonate. And for Cynthia Calvillo, man, this is a big moment for a bounce back, man. When she fought Caitlin Chukagian, which I will admit, she is a very complex puzzle to solve. You know what I mean? She's a pressure fighter, but she's long, right? So she can keep her distance, but still get on your ass. Just like Neil Magny, right? In a way where he can kind of do that same game. So it's different. It's not going to be the same thing with Andrade. And that's where, I mean, ultimately the mistakes can take place because Andrade keeps her foot on the gas pedal, throwing big winging hooks, everything with power, body shots up to the top. Calvillo is a pretty technical striker. What are the odds of getting counterstruck in this fight, getting knocked out with just, a crisper right hand as she's just coming in with something good? Because Andrade has a good chin too. So what do you think?
Yeah, that was actually the question I had for you as well, man. Does Cynthia Calvillo, the decision fighter that she's been lately, have the possibility to finish Andrade? I don't really know, man.
Hmm.
And you made a good point that Cynthia Calvillo, she likes to, or she's accepting of being on the back foot. But I think in this one that makes her a little bit more dangerous, because if Andrade is being the bully that she likes to be, maintaining that pressure, keeping that pressure on you, and then Cynthia Calvillo is able to see one of those strikes coming, duck underneath, shoot that double leg, and get her to the ground. I think that's a recipe for disaster if you're
Hmm.
Andrade. She might need to be able to go back and forth, because I do think Cynthia Calvillo has the technique advantage. You know, she's very technical. She's very poised in there when she's able to do her work, whereas Andrade has the power advantage. But at the same point, we are a machine, and you touch that button on a nice
Yeah.
counter strike, and Andrade is going to sleep. It could happen, but I'm giving it about a 20% chance. What do you think, Derek?
You know what, man? I don't know if Calvillo has the power. You know what I mean? I just think she touches up her opponents, but I don't know if she has that power, right? And I think it could happen. Anything could happen, right? Anyone has a puncher's chance in the cage. You know what I'm saying? And she has 2 inch reach advantage. She's 2 inches taller, right? So that might play into an advantage. The thing I could see possibly is grabbing her up in a clinch and just kneeing her in the face, doing something like that. Chukagian had a little bit of success throwing knees up against Andrade, but Chukagian's a way taller opponent and all that good stuff, man. And that's the other point I wanted to note out against Chukagian. So Calvillo couldn't get the takedowns against the blonde fighter, right? But one of the reasons I think that was because the blonde fighter was able to manage her distance so well that she was able to see every time Calvillo was trying to shoot in for the takedown. Like you said, AJ, though, Andrade puts her head down and just starts winging the hooks and just gets taken down. You're not giving yourself enough space to be able to get your hips back and sprawl. So I think it could be a very complex challenge for this one. I think the odds. So let's talk about the odds real fast. Do you agree with plus 225 for Calvillo, man, or do you think this should be a little closer?
I agree with these ones, especially
Mhm.
because we haven't really seen Calvillo recently. I mean, I
Yeah.
know she just fought Caitlin Chukagian, excuse me. But we just have so much recency bias towards Andrade that I definitely think Calvillo is the underdog on this one. Maybe not
Mhm.
225 underdog, maybe around 150 or so, but still an underdog nonetheless. What do you think?
I think it should be just a little bit closer, but then when I take a look at the last fives, then it kind of makes sense, right? For Andrade, last five: Valentina Shevchenko, Caitlin Chukagian, Rose Namajunas, Weili Zhang, Rose Namajunas, right? So those are split between strawweight and flyweight. For Cynthia Calvillo, Caitlin Chukagian, Jessica Ai, Marina Rodriguez, Courtney Casey, Poliana Botelho. Those are also a very tough five, but it's not the same. So the last thing before we get out of here, AJ, for this matchup and give our picks, is I want to talk about notable wins, right? Because even though Cynthia Calvillo only has 12 fights in her MMA career, she came up fighting some legit fighters, right? Like, you know what I mean? She came up fighting the Jillian Robertsons, the Montana De La Rosas, the Joanne Calder-Woods, like I said, Poliana Botelho, Jessica Ai, you know what I mean? And she has a KO win over Montana De La Rosa, and she submitted Poliana Botelho, so I think that's very impressive, right? But for Jessica Andrade, I mean, come on, dude. We already talked Rose Namajunas, right? Got that win. Tisha Torres, Claudia Gadelia, Angela Hill, Joanne Calderwood, man. So it's just like, man, both of these fighters have such stacked resumes. But at the end of the day, man, we can see this fight on the feet. We can see it on the ground. Both of these fighters are good in both areas. Who do you have and why?
Yeah, like you said, Derek, I think this one can go a multitude of ways. Who knows exactly how it's going to go? I think if it's a decision, Calvillo gets it. If it's a finish, it's Andrade. And for that, I'm going little Bate Estaca,
Mhm.
Jessica Andrade with the KO round two, man. I think it's going to be a fun fight either way. Who you got and why, Derek?
You know what, man? This is a fighter where I'll tell you what, after I saw what she did to the blonde fighter, even though she lost to Valentina, man, I just think that the power, the pressure is a little too much. Her head movement, her distance management is very good. And let me pull a little souvenir out real fast, boys. All right, let's see if this picks up on the cam. You see that? You see who that is? That's Jessica Andrade, signed submission specialist, man. I don't care if it's on the feet, on the ground. It does not matter where it goes. Jessica Andrade, she is a BJJ black belt, the former UFC strawweight champion and a four-time fight of the night winner, man. I think when it comes down to it, she knows what these pressure spots are. Cynthia Calvillo called Andrade out when they were actually both cornering their teammates at an Invicta fight, right? So Andrade is like, oh, you want to call me out? All right, let's dance. She's number one in the division for a reason. It's interesting, right? How you can move up from strawweight to flyweight and just immediately number one. Bow, lose the title fight, still number one. Why? Because you're a special athlete, man. So I'm going Jessica Andrade. And believe it or not, AJ, I'm going TKO round number 2, man. I do think that she will get the finish in this one, whether it's ground and pound or just hooks to the body, whatever it is, man. So it should be a very, very fun one, man. But I think we can move on to